Everyone, welcome back. The sound didn't sound too horrible, so I figure I might as well fill everybody in on how the drive is going all the way to Kansas City, Missouri. I'm headed through Iowa, and the terrain is it's pretty damn boring, I have to admit. It's flat, and we're on 3 lanes now. Sam said it opens up to either 4, excuse me, or 5 lanes once we get to Des Moines. I think I just saw a sign that that's still 2 hours away. So, other than the Microsoft Network fiber that is running along the interstates, not a lot related to Microsoft out here in the middle of Iowa. Although there is a data center, the largest data center, central U.S., is in the state of Iowa. And Microsoft's investment in that data center and region is in the billions of dollars. Microsoft, interestingly enough, is making the same types of investments in the data center in the Chicagoland area. And in Chicagoland, the expansion means that there will be more servers, more square footage, and improvements in the north central U.S. region for Microsoft. I was just teaching a class last week where we were working with the Microsoft data center latency and looking at where you are and which Microsoft data center gives you the best response. And I live in DeKalb, Illinois, and was perfectly expecting, would have probably put money on the Chicago North Central data center region being the best, but I was somewhat surprised at the results. In DeKalb, right off of Route 88, another interstate, where you can expect to find fiber from all sorts of companies, not just the Microsoft network, but public internet. I found that central US, or the Iowa data center, was giving me better response time than the Chicago data center. Excuse me. And whether that was related to the ISP, the internet service provider we were using, or whether that was based on the fact that Microsoft has maybe a larger data center in Iowa, and we might be somewhat equidistant. The Iowa or central US data center was giving me better performance for services. Specifically last week, I was looking at the Azure virtual desktops. And with Azure virtual desktops, I can now host Windows 10, Windows Server, and Windows 7 desktops from the cloud, from Microsoft's cloud. Those can be surfaced with Microsoft Teams as an application that runs within that Azure virtual desktop. Imagine how cool it would be to be on any device, including a tablet, and have a full, rich Windows experience from that device. This is one of the benefits of Azure Virtual Desktop. It used to be called, it's been out for over 2 years at this point, it used to be called Windows Virtual Desktop, because what runs in it? Windows. Windows 10, Windows 7, and Windows Server 2019 is supported. Windows Server 2022 just came out. But one of the things that I noticed was the rename of Windows Virtual Desktop to Azure Virtual Desktop. I haven't seen any announcements, but there is speculation and obviously an opportunity for those virtual desktops to not only be Microsoft desktops. Imagine what could happen if other virtual operating systems to be run from Microsoft's cloud. And I haven't tried this, and like I said, I haven't looked up whether there have been any recent announcements to that fact. But a rename to Azure Virtual Desktop tells you the focus is on Microsoft Azure, not necessarily just on the Windows operating system. So stay tuned, watch for that. And watch for Microsoft Teams running on those different operating systems. Microsoft Teams as an application is already cross-platform. It runs on Windows, it runs on my Mac OS, Apple computer. I have a MacBook Pro as well as a few other Apple devices. I have more Surface devices than probably any other hardware at this point. But Teams also runs on iOS, so it could run on my iOS iPhone that I'm using to broadcast with Restream. It could run on my Android devices. I don't use those currently, but I'm considering, with the announcement of the iPhone 13, whether I stick with Apple or whether I go back to an Android device that I really, really miss. So I may do both devices because I'm pretty involved in Microsoft Teams. This week, coming up, I had to break the news to Jason, my pastor friend in Kansas City, that we are planning to get home at a reasonable time on Sunday because my Microsoft Teams class next week starts at 3 a.m. my time. So I'm going to be up really, really early. Sunday night, Monday morning, I'm not sure what it'll feel like to teach Microsoft Teams. And one thing that I love about Microsoft Teams is the fact that some of the deliveries don't use Microsoft Teams to teach you about Microsoft Teams. And it's usually the number one question I get from students. Hey, Dan, why are you teaching Microsoft Teams from Zoom, from WebEx, from Adobe Captivate, and different platforms? And one reason is that those other platforms offer conferencing and maybe integration that Microsoft Teams may have today, but may not have had when the learning partner set up the connection. The other thing is, from a Teams perspective, if you're teaching administration of Teams, you're not necessarily using the Microsoft Teams client the whole time. I'm not teaching how to use Microsoft Teams. I'm teaching how to administer Microsoft Teams. And imagine if you're a learning partner that offers hundreds of Microsoft and potentially other vendors' courses, and you're doing all of that virtually. Do you really want to have a Microsoft Teams meeting for the Microsoft Teams training if you offer maybe all the other training and your instructors are familiar with Adobe Captivate, WebEx, Zoom, whatever that third party or that other video conferencing and learning environment is? For many trainers, familiarity is a benefit. I, fortunately, have been getting familiar with all of these other third-party solutions. So I am in a unique position, to compare and contrast things I like about Zoom, things I love about Teams, and very soon, things about the Adobe Captivate learning environment. Adobe is something that I will be teaching Microsoft Teams in, not this week, but next week. So I'm going to have all of that experience that I can add to my expertise in Microsoft Teams and comparing and contrasting that platform versus other UC, Unified Communications platforms. It's an exciting time to be independent because I'm also getting an opportunity this fall to learn about the number one and number two cloud providers. I don't know at this point where Amazon's data centers are, but I have to imagine if Microsoft's data centers are off of Interstate 80, I would imagine another cloud provider or two or three are invested in the same land and massive data centers that Microsoft has. So as part of getting my Microsoft cloud certifications, I also thought about who else should I invest in and become familiar with. And one exciting opportunity that came to me was to study for the Amazon Authorized Instructor, or AAI. I have a number of friends that work for Amazon, and at least one of them is a Amazon Authorized Instructor. And in talking to him and other Amazon Authorized Instructors, one of the things that Microsoft, with the Certified Trainer program, brought to my attention was what better job can you have than get to get paid to learn. So both as a Microsoft Certified Instructor for over 20 years, and hopefully soon an Amazon Authorized Instructor, I get paid to learn their technology. I can't think of a better job in tech than getting to get paid as opposed to just learning. As a student, I have taken Microsoft classes. I have taken TCP/IP or networking classes. I have taken packaging classes where I learned how to package up Microsoft apps. I have taken development classes where I've learned how to use Microsoft's development environment, starting with Visual Basic and Visual InterDev back in the 90s. Becoming a Microsoft Certified Trainer was the best thing I could do for my career. Why? Because as a certified trainer, Microsoft made every single course available to me as an instructor. So if I want to dabble in development, in Azure, in Windows, in the Microsoft Office for Mac, I have access to every single Microsoft environment and version of their software that is available. I also get free Azure credits every single month as me, as a professional. It's not tied to my employer. It's not tied to the opportunities that I've had as a full-time employee. And I have had many, including in 2005, getting hired by Microsoft and working as an FTE or full-time employee for over 10 years. As part of that experience, I can say it was instrumental in landing that job, the fact that I had been a Microsoft certified trainer for a number of years beforehand. Imagine what getting an Amazon authorized instructor could potentially give me opportunity to do in the future. I can either stay independent and offer Amazon authorized courses that I have expertise in, or that could be another opportunity to go full-time with a different employer. The future remains to be seen. But one of the exciting things about classroom training experience is the opportunities that it makes available to you. Thanks for joining me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, as well as LinkedIn on this Saturday morning. If you're just joining me, I am driving from Illinois through Iowa to Kansas City, Missouri. We are moving our son, so there's a caravan of us that are driving 3 separate cars, and we are driving from Illinois through Iowa to Missouri. So you might be wondering, why am I talking about Microsoft and Amazon on all of these different social media platforms? The reason is I was reminded on Route 80, Interstate 80, that I will be likely passing through Microsoft's largest U.S. data center, and that is in Iowa. I haven't looked recently, but the last time I saw, Microsoft's investment in dollars was largest in the Iowa data center, both from a land perspective and from a resource perspective. And a lot of people will ask, when I gave the data center tours in the Chicago Microsoft data center, why is it located where it is? It's close to O'Hare Airport, it's close to rail, and it's close to an interstate. And the reason for that is right of way. When you have interstate or rail, you have something that already runs through or cuts through states, towns, and gives you access to lay fiber network, fast network that can be laid next to or under that interstate. And how it connects the United States coast to coast, north to south, that is done through data centers, just like the Microsoft data center, that at some point I'll be passing, maybe, because I know where the Iowa data center, as even a Microsoft employee, you are not given privy to where the Microsoft data centers are unless you need to know. Now, Microsoft, a lot of people will ask, are these data centers completely off the map? You know, could I find this with something like Bing Maps or Google Maps or other services? Well, Microsoft, as well as I would imagine Amazon, in their power to keep these locations under wraps. They don't have big welcome mats or logos outside their data centers. There are lots of people that either work, have constructed, or that maintain these physical locations. So although you may be able to find them, Microsoft or Amazon aren't likely to tell you where their data centers are with a big welcome or logo or signage. I know one of the stories of Microsoft's Chicago data center was when it was built in 2008. There was a business park and an assumption that we would want the Microsoft logo outside the data center. And the situation there is Microsoft doesn't want the logo and the Microsoft information being published to the public. So it was quickly removed from signage for the business park. If you know anything about data centers, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, you name it, they are built in massive amounts of land. So the land that is needed for the network, the cooling, the servers, the support is something that's super important. Facebook is making a huge investment in a data center in DeKalb, Illinois. And unlike, at least Microsoft and I would imagine, Amazon and Google or other cloud providers, Facebook made this announcement about where they were making the investment in one of their data centers, at least from a city perspective. And that announcement was probably a year ago or more now, where Facebook announced a very, very large investment in my hometown of DeKalb, Illinois. As you can imagine, if Facebook or Microsoft or Google or Amazon have seen fit to, hey, here's a great location for us to build a data center, what do you think happens to the others? Have you ever wondered why, when you find a McDonald's, you may find other fast food chains around that location? One reason is whoever's there first, whether it's McDonald's, Burger King, or another fast food chain, have seen fit to, hey, this is a good location for us to find customers. The other fast food companies find the same. Hey, this is a good location for us to find customers and give customers a choice. So I would imagine Facebook's investment in DeKalb will be something that other cloud providers or even data center customers find interesting. Hey, there is a lot of land right off of an interstate, right off of a very fast network that we can get. Maybe the land will be, or the companies will be incentivized to either build or to leverage the massive scale of these buildings that are already coming to DeKalb. Along with the Facebook announcement, DeKalb announced that Ferrera Candy was coming to DeKalb in almost the same area that we have a 3M distribution center, we have a Target distribution center, as well as a large Panduit location. What does Panduit do? To my knowledge, they do rack for servers. I wonder why there's a Panduit facility in DeKalb, Illinois. Maybe they saw an opportunity to build the networking, cabling, and the equipment, maybe where there would be networking, cabling, and equipment opportunities, either already or in the future. It's interesting to see these kind of business opportunities from an independent lens. Being a full-time Microsoft employee was a lot of fun. But one thing that being independent again gives me is an opportunity to pursue whatever technology interests me, not just Microsoft. So I am back officially, not only using my Surface devices, which are my favorite hardware because it combines everything that I loved about Apple with everything that I love about Microsoft. The devices are sleek. They are some of the sexiest designs I have ever seen. And I get touchscreen capabilities in those massive, gorgeous screens. My Surface Studio is my go-to for technical training in a virtual environment. Why? Because I have a 28-inch canvas at my disposal. What do I run right next to my devices currently? I run secondary screens so that I have essentially a producer and a classroom environment. But I'm really going to be happy to get back to my two massive 27-inch iMac monitors. And those iMacs, 27-inch, are over 10 years old. But one thing that they allow me to do is what's called target mode. And I can use either a Mac computer to fire up those two gorgeous displays, or I can use a Surface computer. And I can have a Surface device with two 27-inch external monitors. This is likely to be my setup in the future, is combining Surface with those Apple computers and have both at my disposal as a technical trainer. Next week, I'm teaching Microsoft Teams and other Microsoft courses around the world. This will be the first time I am dipping into at least 3 major time zones for courses that I offer through partners that I work with. And Microsoft Teams is my absolute favorite class. I have not found a class that I'm more excited about. The only thing I'm not excited about that Microsoft class is the fact that the material and the labs are a little less than what you need for 4 days of classroom or virtual training. So one thing that I have been working on is to fill the remaining time with labs. The other 3 classes that I'm offering next week are the opposite. They are more lab time than you might need allotted to a multi-day class. And so those other classes are the opposite approach. It's figuring out the balance between lecture and discussion and maybe working together through a lab or two versus giving students time to unpack what they've learned and practice what they've learned in the labs. The nice thing about what we are offering next week is that on the 3 different platforms, Adobe Captivate, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom, I'm getting an opportunity, and WebEx, 4 platforms next week. I'm getting an opportunity to see how those different platforms perform and learn those different platforms, which, again, I'm getting paid to learn. What better job is there than that? If you have interest in pursuing your Microsoft certification, Amazon certification, Google certification, or otherwise, I would love to chat with you, because that is one thing that at least 2 of those vendors I am pursuing. And with one of those vendors, Microsoft in particular, I have had that instructor certification or trainer certification for years. And the amount of people that I have met through that, whether they be students at the time that are taking a class from me, whether they be other trainers or instructors that I have the privilege to meet and work with, it is a massive opportunity to increase your network of technical professionals. The other thing that is likely to happen next week is I am taking on a multi-month Microsoft Teams project. And I will be a project manager for a over 1,000 seat migration from Microsoft's Lync to Microsoft Teams. And I can tell you, between the 2, doing the work as a project manager or consultant and getting the opportunity to teach the courses, it's magical. I can't think of a better job. When I worked at Microsoft as a full-time employee, I was what they consider a technical pre-sales resource. And one thing that I found being a technical pre-sales resource at Microsoft is where companies spend all their money. My wife has been with her company for over 25 years at this point. And guess what? The closer she gets to the sales organization, the more money she is making. So if you want to think about your career and money is important to you, get as close as you feel comfortable to sales. If you don't like sales, don't get too close to sales. Because I've also had the opportunity to realize I don't want to be selling hardware or selling something as the salesperson. I want to be supporting, maybe teaching, maybe sharing my knowledge with others, but I don't want to be the person on the sales floor. Unless I'm selling my services directly, which I do as a trainer. As an independent trainer, it's my job to showcase my services to my customers, whether they be other training companies or individual customers looking for trainers. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But the last thing I want to be doing is selling as a middle person a solution through others. It's just not my cup of tea. So one thing that I really enjoy is community. And I am thankful for all of you that either watch this live on Saturday or watch this in the future on LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. I'm on all of those platforms with Restream. Restream.io is the application that I'm using from my iPhone to come live from you on my way across the state, on my way to Missouri from Illinois. I'm caravanning with my son, who is moving there, and my wife, who is my ride home, because our son is going to be living in Kansas City. It's an exciting time to be moving him, as many of us can move wherever we want. If you have a job where you are not commuting to an office anymore, why do you live where you live? Hopefully it's because of the community that you have developed there, within a city, or within a particular area of the country, or world for that matter. But I have found it very interesting to watch on LinkedIn the amount of people in my network that have decided to either permanently or temporarily experience a different place within the United States, within North America, or within the world. What ties you to a particular place right now might be COVID, might be the fact that we have some restrictions in movement and some requirements for quarantining when we return from visiting other places. But our son, moving 6.5 or 7 hours away from us, will have that opportunity. If he needs to quarantine for a couple of weeks before he goes ahead and applies for a job, he'll have an opportunity to do so. If he needs to quarantine when he comes back to visit us, that's something that he'd have an opportunity to do as well. So depending on where his job, his next opportunity takes him, we'll find out if he's an essential worker still, where he has to show up to a physical location. As a culinary arts student, I would imagine he's going to have to show up somewhere to cook things. But one thing I told him was, hey, maybe you think about cooking things and shipping them, or cooking things and making it available as a service. The world is available to him, and it's going to be exciting to see how he makes that transition. Thanks for joining me live. I appreciate you making the drive through Iowa, which is not a very exciting drive by yourself, a little more enjoyable. Because I'm driving, I don't have the opportunity to take a look at if anybody is making comments, but mark my words, I will go ahead and go through the comments and either respond to those or interact with you later when I have a chance. Chances are it won't be while I'm in Missouri, because I'm visiting a good friend there, maybe multiple friends. I've reached out to a few people I know that are in the area. If you work for Microsoft and you're in the Missouri area, Mark Bowman, I'm thinking of you. Travis Coleman, I think you just moved from the St. Louis, Missouri area. I don't remember where you moved to, though. I think it was the East Coast. And many others that I know in the Kansas City area. Feel free to either reach out on Facebook, Messenger, LinkedIn, whatever the platform may be. If it doesn't work out to meet somewhere wherever we decide to do dinner tonight, I'm sure it would make sense to reach out and plan that get-together at a barbecue joint, a bar, or both in the future. Because with a son who lives there and maybe works at a restaurant, I know where I'm going to be going frequently. Maybe even working. Maybe we'll do a week in Kansas City. We are, next week, officially empty nesters. That means our kids are living outside of our home. What does that provide for us? Some quiet time, some opportunity to think about and reflect what's next for us, and potentially visiting one or both of our kids closer to where they have established college or the next step in their careers. So it's going to be an exciting time. I look forward to sharing more information with each and every one of you here on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you name it. I've got it set up in Restream. Maybe I'll find some other platforms to go live on. We're in September, and September is going quick. This Friday, coming up, if you are a Microsoft alumni and you find yourself in the Chicago area, we are going to be joined with the Chicago Gourmet Hamburger Hop on Friday evening. Sonia Harper hopefully will be joining me, and I'm talking to some other people that may join us for other Microsoft Alumni Networks events in the Chicagoland area. It's going to be a really cool time. What else is going on? September is going to fly. I think that's the last official weekend that's in September, and then we're in October. Well, what does October bring us? Other than Comms VNext in Denver, Colorado. And guess what? I get to announce here that I am a speaker at Comms VNext in Denver, Colorado at the end of October. I am arranging with friends that used to be neighbors, and their daughter is best friends with our daughter, an opportunity to visit with them in late October in Denver, Colorado. Not sure who all is going to be able to join me based on school and other commitments, but I will be in Denver, Colorado in late October. What will I be presenting about? Microsoft Teams, that's right. Cooking with Teams, and people you should know, or persons you should know in the Microsoft Teams community is my session for Comms VNext 2021 in person in Denver, Colorado, or virtually from wherever you are in October. It's going to be a fun fall. I'm really looking forward to it. The only other thing that we have completely documented is a trip to Orlando and the Fort Lauderdale, Florida area the week leading up to and the weekend of Thanksgiving. So we will spend that time with family in Florida. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be just an amazing week with family and potentially friends in Florida. Disney World, Mark Litwin, hopefully I'll see you there. We are doing all sorts of events. I will provide you more detail Would love to meet up in person again. Elias, I know you are maybe 45 minutes from Fort Lauderdale. Maybe we can figure out something. My brother-in-law has a BMW convertible that I have never ridden in. And my goal for the visit to Fort Lauderdale is to at least get into that BMW convertible. I didn't even realize it was a convertible because it's a hardtop. So unlike a convertible where you can tell, hey, I bet that cloth top comes off and reveals the open sky and the open road, this BMW is a hardtop. So it looks like a regular car. And he told me it was a convertible, and I was like, bullshit, that is not a convertible. And he said, oh yeah, it's a convertible. And I said, oh, I'd love to go for a ride. This year, Adam, mark my words, we are going to take a ride in that convertible. That's my goal for November 2021. What does December 2021 bring? Other than the massive fun that we have when we all get together for the holidays. That's what I'm looking forward to. One of the things I'm looking forward to in December. The other thing that I'm looking forward to is putting together either virtual or physical opportunities for Microsoft alumni in Chicago. I just got a message that my stream is having an issue. What is available in Iowa along Route 80? Massive amounts of network cable, massive data centers, and apparently cell phone towers that I would imagine I'm bouncing between. If I had to guess, not knowing much about cellular networks, like my friend Ed Gallagher, I would have to imagine I just bounced between a couple of those towers, and that my network connection and my data streaming with Restream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, what have I forgotten? LinkedIn was affected by switching between cellular towers. This is an opportunity for me to keep myself engaged while driving all the way to Des Moines and then all the way to Kansas City, Missouri. It's better than talking to myself or horribly singing the songs that I find on the AM/FM radio that U-Haul saw fit to this Ford vehicle. It is a massive Ford vehicle at that. I enjoy driving, but I enjoy staying awake and engaged more than driving. So this is a perfect opportunity for a captive audience and for some announcements and updates from the world of Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Certified Training, and Amazon Authorized Instruction. One of the great things about my career has been the opportunities it has afforded me. I have been independent, self-employed for more times than I can count. I think more times than fit on one hand. And one thing that has provided me is independence from the partners that I work for. So when you hear from somebody that works for Microsoft, probably the first thing that occurs to me or others is, yeah, of course they're going to say they love Surface devices. Because for a year and a half, I was a Surface seller. I got incentivized to sell healthcare customers Surface hardware. Well, guess what? I am no longer a Surface hardware seller. And I can tell you, hands down at this point, the Microsoft Surface lineup is my favorite set of hardware out of anything that I have available to me. I have a Lenovo computer that I love. It's a P50. It has 64 gigabytes of RAM. Guess what I can't do in a Surface device today? I cannot configure the Surface Studio, which is the desktop, the Surface laptop or book with 64 gigabytes of memory. Guess what I'm going to be watching on September 22nd? The next steps for the Microsoft Surface line. This Wednesday, while I am teaching, I will be watching breathless as Microsoft makes announcements about what's next for the Surface hardware. That's this Wednesday coming up. Microsoft may announce new devices. They may announce devices that support 64 gigabytes of RAM or more. If they do, guess what my next purchase is going to be? It's going to be whatever that Surface is that is available with 64 gig or more of RAM. Because Microsoft just announced they're going to have new server exams this fall in beta. One thing that I get as a Microsoft certified trainer is typically opportunities to take beta exams for free.